Hi, welcome to the Aftermath Tales. Ready for a new story? Very well, let's begin.
From this day forward, I am no longer your daughter. You stopped being my mother the day my father died, and you chose your affair partner over your own child. You and your replacement family have made my life a living hell for 17 years. And now you've broken my innocent daughter's heart and insulted the man I love. I'm done. We're done. My voice echoed through the phone, years of suppressed rage finally erupting like a volcano. My hands shook as I gripped the receiver, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. 33 years of hoping, of trying, of believing that somehow my mother would remember she had another daughter besides her stepdaughter Anna. It all came crashing down in that moment. Let me tell you how I ended up screaming at the woman who gave birth to me, standing in my kitchen while my 8-year-old daughter cried upstairs, and my husband paced the living room with fury I'd never seen before. My name is Sylvia Simon, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the family you're born into isn't worth fighting for, and the family you choose is worth everything. I wasn't always a Simon. I was born Sylvia Matthews in 1992, daughter of David and Edna Matthews. My father was a good man, a gentle accountant who worked long hours to provide for his family and came home every night with stories that made me laugh. He taught me to ride a bike, helped with my homework, and made the best pancakes on Sunday mornings. My world shattered when I was 16. I came home from school early that Tuesday in April 2008 because of a shortened day, planning to surprise my parents. Instead, I found my mother in our living room with Frank Harrison, Anna's father, in a compromising position that no teenager should ever have to witness. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was seeing my mother's face when she spotted me in the doorway. Not shame, not remorse, but annoyance. Like I was the problem for being there. "Sylvia, this isn't what it looks like," she said, straightening her blouse. But it was exactly what it looked like, and we all knew it. I ran to my room and stayed there until Dad came home. I should have told him immediately, but I was 16 and terrified and somehow convinced myself that if I pretended it never happened, maybe it hadn't. Maybe my family could stay intact. 3 weeks later, Dad found out on his own. I don't know how. Maybe Frank's conscience got the better of him. Maybe someone saw them together. Maybe he just finally noticed what had been happening under his nose. What I do know is that he confronted Mom that night, their voices carrying through the thin walls of our modest home. "How long, Edna? How long have you been making a fool of me?" "David, please, it's not like that," my mom tried to explain. "It's exactly like that. Frank Harrison? The man I trusted? The man whose daughter plays with our daughter?" I pressed my ear to the door, terrified of what I might hear, but unable to stop listening. "I want him to leave his wife. We want to be together properly." The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the sound I'll never forget. My father's broken sob, raw and desperate. "What about Sylvia? What about our daughter?" he asked. "She'll adjust. Children are resilient." 30 minutes later, I heard the ambulance sirens. Dad had a massive heart attack right there in our kitchen. 43 years old, in decent health, no family history of heart disease. The paramedics worked on him for 20 minutes, but the doctor at the hospital said it was likely instant. The shock and stress had simply stopped his heart. Mom married Frank 10 months later. A small ceremony that I wasn't even asked to participate in, while I was still grieving the father who died because his wife's betrayal literally broke his heart. From that day forward, I ceased to be Edna's priority. Anna, Frank's biological child from his first marriage, became the golden child, the princess who could do no wrong. I became the reminder of her previous life, the inconvenient daughter who witnessed her shame. Frank made it clear from the beginning that I was an unwelcome addition to his new family. He complained constantly about the cost of feeding me, buying my school supplies, keeping me clothed. Edna would start every argument with him by yelling at me, as if somehow their problems were my fault. "Sylvia, your grades better improve, or Frank says we can't afford tutoring." "Sylvia, stop leaving dishes in the sink. Frank works hard and shouldn't have to clean up after someone who isn't even his daughter." "Sylvia, Anna needs new clothes for school. You'll have to make do with what you have. Anna, meanwhile, seemed to take pleasure in my misery. She'd deliberately break something and blame me, knowing Frank would side with her. She'd invite friends over and introduce me as my mom's other daughter, with just enough emphasis to make it clear I didn't really belong. She'd ask for expensive things she didn't need, just to watch Frank buy them for her while denying me basic necessities. But the worst part wasn't their treatment of me. It was watching my mother allow it. The woman who used to braid my hair and sing lullabies became a stranger who chose her new husband's approval over her own daughter's well-being. I moved out the day I turned 18 in June 2010, working 2 jobs to put myself through community college. I studied business and baking, dreaming of someday opening my own bakery. It was at the community college that I met Alex Simon. He was taking night classes in automotive technology, not because he needed to, but because he genuinely loved learning about cars. He was tall, kind, and had this way of listening to me talk about my dreams like they were the most important things in the world. "You want to own a bakery?" he asked during our second coffee date. I know it sounds silly. It sounds perfect. You light up when you talk about baking. He said, what I didn't know then was that Alex could have afforded to buy me a dozen bakeries. His father, Raymond Simon, owned Simon Motors Corporation, not just car dealerships, but real estate, manufacturing, and various other businesses throughout Texas. Alex was the heir to a multi-million-dollar empire, but he'd chosen to work as a mechanic because he loved it. "Why didn't you tell me about your family's money?" I asked him months later when I finally learned the truth. "Because I wanted you to love me, not my bank account, and because I've seen what money does to families. It makes people fake, makes them treat each other like commodities instead of people." We got married in a simple ceremony 2 years later in May 2012. Just us, Pastor Williams, Alex's father Raymond, my Aunt Liza, my father's sister, who'd cut ties with Mom after witnessing how she treated me, and 3 witnesses from the church. I wore a simple white dress from the department store, carried a bouquet of daisies, and felt more beautiful than any princess. Mom and Frank didn't come. They said they had prior commitments, but I saw the Facebook photos of them at some barbecue that same weekend. "We're sorry we couldn't make it," Mom said when I confronted her later. "But honestly, Sylvia, a mechanic, you could have done better." If only she had known that my mechanic husband was worth more than Frank would make in 10 lifetimes. Raymond insisted on giving us a house as a wedding gift. Alex tried to decline, but his father was persistent. "You're my son and she's my daughter now. Let me do this for you." We compromised on a beautiful 4-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood, modest by Raymond's standards, but a palace compared to where I'd grown up. For 8 years, we built a life together. Alex worked at the dealership, learning every aspect of the family business from the ground up. I started my cake business from our kitchen, slowly building a reputation for beautiful, delicious custom cakes. By 2020, I'd opened Sweet Sylvia's Custom Cakes on Main Street, and the business was thriving with 3 locations across Dallas. Our daughter Melissa was born when I was 25 in March 2017, and she became the center of our world. And for 8 years, we attended monthly Sunday dinners at Mom and Frank's house, where I endured their dismissive comments and watched them shower Anna with attention while barely acknowledging my family's existence. Alex never complained, but I could see it wearing on him. The constant subtle insults, the way Frank talked down to him, the way Anna made snide comments about blue-collar work. "We don't have to keep going," Alex would tell me after particularly brutal dinners. "But Melissa deserves to know her cousins," I'd argue. "And maybe someday they'll see what an amazing man I married." I was still hoping for my mother's love and approval, still that 16-year-old girl who found her world destroyed and was desperately trying to put it back together. That hope died on a Tuesday morning in March 2025 when I called my mother from Dallas-Fort Worth Airport and learned that she'd deliberately left my daughter stranded, that she'd chosen Anna's comfort over my child's happiness one final time. The Sunday dinners at Mom and Frank's house had become a monthly exercise in patience that tested every limit I had. Anna would arrive in her BMW designer handbag over her arm, ready to hold court like some sort of suburban royalty. Thomas, her husband of 5 years, usually looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from being married to someone whose demands never end. This particular Sunday in February 2025 was different because Thomas had brought Ben Hartwell, his business partner, to dinner. They were clearly stressed about something, having hushed conversations during cocktails that Anna kept trying to interrupt. "Thomas, darling, you're being so serious," Anna said, touching his arm possessively. "This is family time. Anna, please. We have a genuine crisis we're trying to solve." Melissa sat quietly beside me, coloring in a book while listening to the adults talk. She was 7 years old, but already perceptive enough to sense the tension in the room. Owen, 9, and David, 6, Anna's boys, were surprisingly sweet kids despite their mother. They always made an effort to include Melissa in their games and seemed genuinely happy to see her. During dinner, Thomas and Ben couldn't help but return to their problem. "The issue is the Riverside Development Project," Thomas explained to Frank, as if seeking his opinion. "Great location, solid market research, but our timeline is completely unrealistic given the construction costs. We're looking at an 18-month build-out from breaking ground," Ben added, "but our projected rental income won't justify the upfront investment at current market rates." Anna, who had been picking at her food while scrolling through Instagram, suddenly looked up with that malicious smile I remembered from our teenage years. "This is all so fascinating, but I think it's going right over some people's heads." She looked directly at Alex. "Alex, do you understand any of this business talk? It must be confusing for someone who just fixes cars all day." The table went quiet. I felt my face flush with embarrassment and anger. Frank chuckled under his breath, and even Mom smiled slightly, as if Anna had made some clever joke. But Alex didn't look embarrassed or confused. He set down his fork and looked thoughtfully at Thomas and Ben. "Actually, I have a few questions about your approach. What's driving your decision to complete the entire development simultaneously? Have you considered a phased construction model?" Thomas raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Well, if I understand correctly, you're trying to build everything at once to meet your 18-month deadline. But what if you built in stages instead? Start with 30% of the project, just enough to house your anchor tenants. Once they're paying rent and you've established market demand, you use that revenue stream to finance the remaining phases." Ben leaned forward, suddenly interested. "That would significantly reduce our initial capital requirements." "Exactly. Plus, you'd have real market data instead of projections to guide your decisions on the later phases. Maybe the market wants more retail, maybe more office space. You could adjust based on what's actually working." "But the timeline," Thomas started, "the timeline becomes more flexible because you're not trying to finance everything up front. You could actually complete the project faster because you're not waiting for massive loan approvals or worrying about cost overruns on the entire development." Frank started to say something dismissive, but Ben cut him off. "Alex, that's brilliant. We've been so locked into traditional development models that we never considered staged construction." Thomas pulled out his phone. "I need to call our financial team tomorrow morning. This approach could save us millions in carrying costs. Are you sure this makes sense?" Anna interjected weakly. "I mean, Alex, you work on cars. Anna, stop." Thomas's voice was sharp. "Alex just solved a problem that's been keeping our entire development team up at night. I was just saying, you were being rude, again." The silence that followed was uncomfortable for everyone except Alex, who calmly returned to his dinner as if solving multi-million-dollar business problems was something he did every day, which I was beginning to realize it probably was. After dinner, Ben left first, shaking Alex's hand enthusiastically and asking if he could call to discuss the development strategy in more detail. "Anytime," Alex said. "I'm always happy to talk shop." As we were getting ready to leave, Thomas approached Alex privately in the hallway. "Alex, can I ask you something? Are you by any chance related to Raymond Simon?" Alex smiled, that knowing smile I'd learned to recognize. "He's my father." Thomas's eyes widened. "Raymond Simon of Simon Motors Corporation? The Raymond Simon who owns half the commercial real estate in Texas? That's the one." "Jesus Christ." Thomas ran his hand through his hair. Why do you let them treat you like a lowly mechanic? Alex's voice was amused rather than bitter. Because when people show you who they really are, it's important to pay attention. My father-in-law and his family made their feelings about me very clear from the beginning. They didn't bother to get to know me, didn't come to my wedding, and have spent 8 years making it obvious that they think I'm beneath them. But you could have told them. What? That they should respect me because I have money? That's not the kind of respect worth having. Alex looked at Thomas curiously. Can I ask you something? Why do you keep giving them money? Anna and her parents constantly ask you for cash, shopping trips, vacations, cars. Why not just say no? Thomas ran his hand through his hair, looking exhausted. Because it's easier than dealing with Anna's stupid tantrums. I work 60-hour weeks building my business, and when I come home, the last thing I want is to fight about a shopping spree or spa day. So I just pay for it to make her leave me alone. That sounds exhausting. It is. I'm getting tired of working like hell while they spend money like it grows on trees. Anna spent $8,000 last month on clothes she'll wear once, and when I mentioned it, she accused me of being controlling and cheap. What about just not giving it to her? Thomas laughed bitterly. You don't know Anna when she doesn't get what she wants. She can make life unbearable. But honestly, I'm reaching my limit. Thomas, Anna's voice called sharply from the living room. We need to leave. I have that spa appointment early tomorrow. Thomas looked like he wanted to say more, but settled for extending his hand. Alex, would it be okay if I called you for business advice from time to time? What you suggested tonight could revolutionize our entire approach to development. Anytime. I mean that. As they left, Anna shooting suspicious glances between Thomas and Alex, I could tell something had shifted. Thomas looked at my husband with new respect, while Anna seemed to sense that her carefully constructed world might be starting to crack. In the car on the way home, I apologized to Alex for the 100th time. I'm sorry about Anna, about all of them. It's okay, sweetheart. I actually find it amusing at this point, watching them act superior while being completely clueless about who they're talking to. You're never going to tell them, are you? I asked. Why would I? People's true character comes out when they think you can't do anything for them. Your family has shown me exactly who they are. 3 weeks later, in early March, Mom called with what she claimed was wonderful news. Sylvia, dear, I have such exciting news. Frank and I have decided to take everyone to Disney World for spring break. My heart did that stupid hopeful thing it always did when Mom sounded genuinely excited about including us in something. Everyone? Well, the whole family, me and Frank, Anna and the boys, and you and Alex and little Melissa. Thomas has to stay behind for some business meetings, but it'll be wonderful to have everyone else together for 4 days. Mom, that's really generous. It's about time we did something nice as a family. Melissa is only going to be little once, right? After I hung up, I found Alex in his workshop behind our house, where he was restoring a 1967 Mustang in his spare time. Mom wants to take us all to Disney World, I told him. Alex looked up from the engine he was working on, a smear of oil across his forehead. Really? That's unexpected. I know it seems too good to be true, but maybe they're finally trying to make an effort. Alex wiped his hands on a shop rag, his expression thoughtful. Maybe, or maybe something else is going on. But Melissa was so excited when we told her that any doubts I had melted away. She spent the next 2 weeks planning what she wanted to see, practicing her autograph book, and counting down the days. If only I had listened to Alex's instincts instead of my desperate hope for my mother's love. The morning of our departure, March 15th, 2025, Melissa was up before dawn, dressed in her favorite Disney shirt and clutching her camera. She chattered excitedly during the drive to the airport about seeing Mickey Mouse and riding Space Mountain. We arrived at DFW at 7 a.m. as instructed, our small suitcase packed with 3 days' worth of clothes. The terminal buzzed with spring break travelers, families heading off on adventures, couples holding hands, everyone looking like they belonged there. We found the gate Mom had specified and sat down to wait. 7:15 a.m. came and went. Then 7:30. Should we call and see where they are? I asked Alex, trying to keep the anxiety out of my voice. Give them a few more minutes. You know how long Anna takes to get ready for anything. I said, by 8 a.m. I was calling Mom's phone. It went straight to voicemail. Hi, Mom, it's me. We're here at the gate waiting for you guys. Call me when you get this. Other families around us were boarding their flights, heading off to magical vacations while we sat in plastic chairs watching the departure board. At 8:30, I tried Frank's number. Also voicemail. Mommy, where is everyone? Melissa asked, her excited chatter finally quieting as she sensed something was wrong. They're just running late, baby. Sometimes adults have trouble getting ready for big trips. But Alex was pacing now, his jaw set in that way that meant he was trying very hard not to lose his temper. At 8:45, my phone finally rang. Mom's number. Mom, thank God. Where are you guys? We've been waiting. Oh, Sylvia, how funny that you called. Her voice sounded different, relaxed, like she was sitting somewhere comfortable instead of rushing through an airport. Mom, what do you mean funny? We're at the airport waiting for you. Well, that's the thing, dear. We're already here in Florida. Frank and Anna and the boys and I flew out yesterday morning. The words didn't compute at first. You flew out yesterday? Anna decided she wanted us to come down early to spend some extra time together as a family before you joined us. You know how she gets about these things. We were only going to stay 4 days anyway, so we thought we'd get settled first. But Mom, you told us to be here at 7 a.m. today for a 9 a.m. flight to meet you there. Oh, did I say that? I think there might have been some confusion about the arrangements. My blood turned to ice. What kind of confusion? Well, Frank was handling the tickets, and I think he might have gotten confused about the dates. Anna said something about how it would be easier if we just got everything set up first, then you could join us tomorrow. There was a pause. And honestly, dear, Anna mentioned that your husband might not, well, she thought a mechanic might not appreciate the finer things about the vacation. The words hit me like physical blows. Around us, the final boarding call for a 9 a.m. Orlando flight echoed through the terminal. That dirty little bitch! Stop making excuses for them, Mom. You guys left us here on purpose. You could have just let us know beforehand that your favorite stepdaughter didn't want us there. I said, Now, Sylvia, don't be so dramatic. These things happen. Maybe next time you should handle your own travel arrangements instead of assuming that when my mother invites me on a family vacation, she actually intends to include me. There's no need to get upset, dear. She said. That's when the fury that had been building for 17 years finally erupted. From this day forward, I am no longer your daughter. You stopped being my mother the day my father died, and you chose your affair partner over your own child. You and your replacement family have made my life a living hell for 17 years, and now you've broken my innocent daughter's heart and insulted the man I love. I'm done. We're done. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking with rage. Alex had heard my side of the conversation. He knelt down to Melissa's level, his voice gentle despite the fury in his eyes. Sweetheart, there was a mix-up with the travel plans. We're going to go home now, okay? Are we not going to Disney World? Her voice was small, confused. Not this trip, baby, but we'll figure something else out. The walk back to the car was the longest of my life. Melissa held my hand tightly, trying not to cry, while other families streamed past us toward their magical vacations. My phone rang again as we reached the parking garage. Mom's number again. I answered it, ready for another explosion. Sylvia, honey, I think you overreacted a bit. I'm sure we can work something out. There's nothing to work out. You made your choice. You would always choose Anna's comfort over your granddaughter's happiness. You chose Frank over the daughter who watched him destroy her father's heart. Now that's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me the truth from the beginning. Fair would have been not lying to an 8-year-old about a vacation she was never going to take. I hung up again. 10 minutes later, Frank called. I should have let it go to voicemail, but some masochistic part of me answered. Sylvia, you need to apologize to your mother. She's crying, and this is all your fault. And that's when I completely lost it. My fault? Frank, you killed my father. Remember that, Frank? You and my former mother killed my father when you decided to destroy our family with your affair. I was 16 years old, and I came home to find my mother betraying the man who loved her, and 3 weeks later, he was dead from the shock of it. So don't you dare call me and demand apologies when you've been ruining my life since I was a child. And now you guys are hurting my daughter. You guys continue to insult my husband. I cannot forgive all of you for being so cruel. Sylvia, he tried to argue, but I cut him off. I'm done. I'm done pretending to be family with the people who killed my father and broke my heart, and now think they can use my daughter as collateral damage in whatever sick game this was. I hung up and immediately blocked their numbers. Then Anna texted, "Wow, way to ruin a family vacation with your drama. Some of us were actually looking forward to this trip before you made it all about yourself." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Fuck you, Anna. Enjoy spending Thomas's hard-earned money while pretending to be something you're not. Without his wallet, you're nothing but a spoiled brat with delusions of grandeur and no personality of your own. You leech." Then, I blocked her number too. When we got home, Alex was angrier than I'd ever seen him. Not just angry, furious in that quiet, dangerous way that meant someone was about to learn a very expensive lesson. But before he could call his father, Melissa had already picked up the phone, and she pressed the speaker button like she always did during family calls. "Grandpa Ray?" "It's me, Melissa." Her voice was small and heartbroken. "We didn't get to go to Disney World." I could hear Raymond's voice change immediately, becoming gentle and concerned. "What happened, sweetheart?" "We went to the airport like Grandma Edna told us to, but they weren't there. Mommy called Grandma and got really upset. Mommy was yelling and crying so much." Melissa's voice got smaller. "She was so angry and sad, Grandpa Ray. She said they don't love us and we're done with them forever. Grandpa Ray, why don't they want me on their vacation?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Your mommy was crying?" Raymond's voice was deadly quiet. "She was so mad and crying, Grandpa Ray. I've never seen Mommy that angry. She kept saying they broke my heart and they don't really love us." That's when I heard it, a sound I'd never heard from Raymond before. A sharp intake of breath, like someone had physically struck him. "Melissa, baby, put your daddy on the phone right now. You're on speaker, Grandpa," she said. I watched Alex's face change as he started talking to his father. Not the controlled anger I'd expected, but something raw and devastated. "Dad? They abandoned my granddaughter at an airport and made her think she wasn't good enough?" Raymond's voice was shaking with fury. "They broke that little girl's heart deliberately?" "Dad, I know you're angry, but..." "Angry? Alex, I am beyond angry. That little girl is my heart walking around outside my body, and they broke it deliberately. They made her think there was something wrong with her, something that made her unworthy of love." "What do you want to do?" Alex asked. "Pack your bags, all 3 of you. You're all going to Tokyo. Not just Tokyo Disney, but the most magical, expensive, documented vacation those people will ever see. I want every moment on social media. I want them to understand exactly what they threw away." "Dad, you don't need to spend." Alex tried to decline the offer. "This isn't about money, son. This is about showing my granddaughter that she is precious and worthy and loved. And if her biological family can't see that, then we'll make sure the whole world does." "Are you coming with us?" Alex asked. Raymond chuckled, though it sounded tired. "Son, I'm 73 years old. A 14-hour flight to Japan might just kill me. But you take that little girl and show her the world. I'll be here when you get back, and I want to hear every detail." 2 days later, the 3 of us were boarding a first-class flight to Tokyo while Raymond waved goodbye from the terminal, his eyes sparkling with satisfaction at the plan he'd orchestrated. Melissa couldn't believe her eyes when she saw our seats, fully reclining beds with personal entertainment systems and flight attendants who treated her like a princess. "This is better than regular Disney World," she exclaimed as we settled in for the 14-hour flight. "That's what Grandpa Ray wanted," Alex told her, smiling. "He said when people try to make you feel small, you show them exactly how big you actually are." For 2 weeks, we lived like royalty in Tokyo. The Grand Nikko Hotel suite was larger than most people's homes, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. We spent days at Tokyo Disney, ate at Michelin-starred restaurants, explored temples and gardens, and took enough photos to fill 10 albums. And yes, I posted every single magical moment on social media. The first-class cabin photos, the hotel suite. Melissa meeting Mickey Mouse in fluent Japanese, she'd been taking lessons. The private tour of the Imperial Palace. The shopping sprees in Ginza. Anna was the first to comment, of course. How in the world could you possibly afford this? Did your mechanic husband take out a loan? I was going to ignore it, but her husband Thomas beat me to the response. Why would the son and heir of Raymond Simon, owner of Simon Motors Corporation and half the commercial real estate in Dallas, need to take out a loan? Unlike your family, who constantly beg me for money for their shopping sprees and vacations. What we didn't know was that Anna and her family were still in Florida when our Tokyo photos started appearing online. They were at the airport getting ready to fly back to Dallas when Anna's phone started buzzing with notifications. Now they know that the mechanic is actually the son and the heir of Raymond Simon. My phone rang immediately. It was Thomas. I put him on speaker so Alex can hear it. Hi, Thomas. Sylvia, I owe you and Alex a massive apology. I had no idea they'd done something so cruel to your family. Alex was laughing. It's okay, Thomas. Actually, I should thank them. This trip has been incredible, and we never would have taken it if they hadn't been so horrible. Still, what they did to Melissa was unforgivable. And honestly, I'm starting to see a pattern with Anna's family that I should have noticed years ago. Alex, I hope you know that not all of us feel the way her family does. Oh, and what you suggested about the development project, we actually implemented it, and it's going to save us over $5 million. When we returned from Tokyo, our email inbox was full of messages from Mom, Frank, and Anna. I deleted them all without reading them. 6 months later, everything changed. Thomas called Alex on a Tuesday afternoon, his voice strained and exhausted. Alex, I need to tell you something, and I owe you an even bigger apology than I thought. What's going on? I'm divorcing Anna, but it's not about the Disney thing, though that should have been a warning sign. It's about what really happened on that trip. Remember how Anna convinced her family to go to Florida early? Well, a few weeks after they got back, Owen came to me and said something that made my blood run cold. He told me he saw his mother with another man at the hotel. Anna didn't know he saw them. But Owen described everything. How they were holding hands, kissing, going into a hotel room together. Alex gasped. Oh my God, Thomas. I couldn't believe it at first. I thought maybe Owen misunderstood what he saw. But it kept eating at me, so I hired a private investigator. It took him months to gather everything. Photos, credit card receipts, hotel records, phone records. Anna had been having an affair for over a year, and she used her family as cover to meet her lover in Florida. Jesus, Alex breathed. The prenup she signed when we married has an infidelity clause. The cheating spouse gets nothing and owes the other party $500,000. Plus, they lose custody of the children. The boys don't even want to see her. Apparently, she's been so focused on her appearance and her affairs that she's never really been a mother to them. My parents are helping me take care of Owen and David now. I'm so sorry, Thomas, Alex said. Don't be. You tried to warn me about her spending and her family's character. I should have listened. His voice broke slightly. The worst part is realizing that my boys have been watching their mother lie and cheat, and I was too blind to see it. There was a long pause. Alex, I'm calling because Anna and her family are in financial trouble. Real trouble. Anna owes me $500,000 she'll never have, and without access to my accounts, Frank and Edna are struggling too. I have a feeling they might try to contact you. Let them try, Alex said grimly. There's something else. Anna's been bragging to anyone who'll listen about how she's related to the Simon family through marriage, trying to use your family name to get credit and loans. I thought you should know. After Thomas hung up, he sat in stunned silence. Then he told me everything. So the Disney trip wasn't just cruelty, I finally said. It was cover for an affair. Anna didn't want us there because we would have caught her cheating. And now they're desperate, Alex replied, which means they're about to become our problem again. Over the next few weeks, we heard more details through the grapevine. Anna's affair partner was a married businessman whose wife had discovered the relationship and was threatening to sue Anna for alienation of affection. The man had cut all contact with Anna and was trying to save his own marriage. Meanwhile, Anna had moved back in with Frank and Edna, who were struggling financially without Thomas's indirect support. Alex had told his father everything about Thomas, how he was the only member of Anna's family who had treated us with genuine respect, even before knowing Alex's true identity. Raymond had been intrigued by Thomas's character and business acumen. Any man who can admit he was wrong and divorce a cheater while treating his children with love deserves my respect, Raymond had said. And if his business proposals are as solid as you say, maybe we should listen to what he has to offer. So when Thomas and Ben arrived at our house that Tuesday afternoon in November to present their latest development proposal to Raymond, it felt like a family gathering of sorts. Raymond, despite being 73, was sharp as ever and genuinely interested in Thomas's phased construction approach. We were all sitting in our spacious living room, Raymond in his favorite leather chair, Thomas and Ben on the sofa with their presentation materials spread across the coffee table, Alex and I nearby with Melissa playing quietly in the corner. The afternoon sun streamed through our floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the room where we were discussing million-dollar business deals. That's when the doorbell rang. "Are we expecting anyone else?" Raymond asked, looking up from the development plans. Alex and I exchanged glances. We weren't. Through our front window, I could see Frank's old sedan in our circular driveway, the same car I'd seen him drive for the past decade. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. It was seeing Anna getting out of the passenger seat, looking haggard and desperate, followed by Frank and Edna. Anna's designer clothes were wrinkled, her hair unwashed, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping. Frank and Edna looked equally worn down, taking in our beautiful Victorian home with its professional landscaping and three-car garage with expressions of dawning realization they'd finally figured out exactly what they'd thrown away. "Oh, this should be interesting," Thomas muttered, recognizing the voices outside. "Thomas?" Raymond raised an eyebrow. "That would be my ex-wife and her family," Thomas said grimly. "The ones who deliberately abandoned Alex's family at the airport." Raymond's expression went from curious to glacial in an instant. I opened the door before they could ring the bell again. "Hello, Edna, Frank, Anna." Anna's face went from hopeful to shocked as she took in the scene behind me, the obvious wealth of our home, the expensive furniture, and then her eyes landed on Thomas, sitting comfortably in our living room. "Thomas?" she said weakly. "What are you doing here?" "Business meeting," Thomas replied coolly, "with the Simon family." That's when Anna's gaze shifted to the elderly man in the leather chair, who was now standing up with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Anna's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air as the full reality of her situation hit her. Frank and Edna stood frozen behind her, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. "Mr. Simon," Frank stammered, trying to recover some dignity. We didn't know you'd be here." "This is my son's home," Raymond replied, his voice carrying the quiet authority of a man who'd built an empire. "I go where I'm welcome." The emphasis on the last word was unmistakable. Anna's eyes darted frantically between Thomas and Raymond, her desperation becoming more obvious by the second. "Thomas, I need to talk to you." "No." Thomas's voice was flat. "We have nothing to discuss. You made your choices, Anna. Now live with them." "But the money? The $500,000 you owe me?" Thomas's laugh was bitter. "My lawyers will handle that, through garnished wages, if you ever manage to find a job." Edna finally found her voice. "Sylvia, honey, maybe we could talk privately, family to family?" I felt Alex's hand on my shoulder, steady and reassuring. "We're not family, Edna. You made that crystal clear at the airport 8 months ago." "That was a misunderstanding," Frank started. "A misunderstanding?" Raymond's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You deliberately abandoned my granddaughter at an airport. You broke an 8-year-old child's heart for the sake of covering up your daughter's adultery." Anna's face went white. "How do you—" "I know everything, young lady, including the fact that you've been using my family's name to try to obtain credit and loans." Raymond stepped closer, and despite his age, there was something formidable about his presence. That stops now. We're desperate, Anna blurted out, all pretense finally cracking. I can't pay Thomas back. My affair partner won't even take my calls because his wife is threatening to sue me. I have nowhere else to turn. You should have thought of that before you decided to cheat on your husband and traumatize a child, I said, surprised by how calm my own voice sounded. Sylvia, please, Edna begged. You're my daughter? No, I interrupted. I stopped being your daughter years ago when you chose Frank over the memory of my father he killed with his affair. I became Alex's wife, Raymond's daughter-in-law, and Melissa's mother. That's my family now. Ben, who had been quietly observing the entire exchange, finally spoke up. Anna, didn't you tell people at the country club that you were related to the Simon family fortune? I heard some interesting stories about loans you tried to get based on that connection. Anna's face flushed red. I never said. There are witnesses, Thomas said grimly. Several people heard you bragging about your connections to Simon Motors Corporation. Raymond's expression grew even colder. Fraud, identity theft, defamation of character. Should I continue? The room fell silent again. Melissa, who had been coloring quietly in the corner, looked up at the raised voices. Mommy, why is everyone angry? That innocent question seemed to break something in Edna. She looked at her granddaughter. We made mistakes, sweetheart, Edna whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. Big mistakes. Yes, you did, Alex said firmly. And now you need to leave. We are obviously busy. Wait, Anna said desperately. I'll do anything. I'll work for you, clean your house, anything, please. Raymond's laugh was sharp and humorless. You think after everything you've done, after the way you've treated my family, that we would trust you in our home? Around our granddaughter? I have 2 little boys to think about, Frank said quietly. If Anna can't pay her debts, those boys are safe and happy with their father and grandparents, Thomas said firmly. They don't need Anna's chaos in their lives any more than they need yours. Anna's composure finally shattered completely. This isn't fair. You have all this money and you won't help family. Family? I exploded, all my years of restraint finally breaking. Family doesn't abandon 8-year-olds at airports. Family doesn't use each other as cover for affairs. Family doesn't spend 17 years making someone feel worthless and unwanted. Anna stepped backward, shocked by my outburst. You want to know what family looks like? I continued, gesturing to the room. It's Raymond who took me in as a daughter when my own mother threw me away. It's Alex who loves me despite knowing all my damage. It's Thomas who apologized when he realized he'd been wrong and treats us with genuine respect. It's Ben. He's not only Thomas's business partner, but he saw people for who they are, not what they can do for him. That is family. Get out, Alex said quietly, but his words carried absolute finality. Get out of our home, off our property, and out of our lives, forever. Sylvia, Edna made one last desperate plea. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at the woman who gave birth to me, this stranger who had chosen everyone and everything over her own daughter for 17 years. I know you are, I said softly. You're sorry you need money, sorry you got caught, sorry your plan didn't work, but you're not sorry for who you are or what you've done, and that's why this conversation is over. Raymond walked to the door and held it open. Security will escort you off the property if you're not gone in 60 seconds. As they shuffled toward the door, Anna turned back one last time. Thomas, please. For the boys' sake. My boys are better off without you, Thomas said firmly. They told me so themselves. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like the end of an era. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Melissa looked up from her coloring book. Are they coming back? No, sweetheart, I said, kneeling down to her level. They're not coming back. Good, she said matter-of-factly. They made you sad. Raymond chuckled despite himself, out of the mouths of babes. Thomas shook his head in amazement. I can't believe I was married to that woman. You're free of her now, Ben pointed out, and apparently so are we all. Alex wrapped his arms around me. How do you feel? I considered the question carefully. Free, I said finally. For the first time in my adult life, I feel completely free. Through the window, we watched Frank's old sedan disappear down our tree-lined street, taking with it the last remnants of the toxic family I'd spent 33 years trying to please. Now, Raymond said, settling back into his chair with a satisfied smile. Where were we with those development plans? I believe we have some real family business to discuss. Thomas had waived the $500,000 debt Anna owed him. What's the point of trying to squeeze blood from a stone, he'd said. She'll never have it, and having her out of my life is worth more than any money. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I surprised everyone by mailing Edna a check for $100,000. Sylvia, you're too kind, Thomas said when he heard. That's my wife, Alex said proudly. I'm not being kind, I corrected. I don't want to become the kind of person who watches someone suffer, even someone who hurt me. As long as I carried anger toward them, they still had power over me. This way, I never have to think about them again. The business partnership between Simon Motors and Thomas's company flourished. Alex became CEO and implemented profit-sharing programs that made the company a model for others. Anna used the money to avoid bankruptcy and now works retail. Frank and Edna moved to a small retirement community in Oklahoma, both working for the first time in years. Our Sunday dinners became Sunday brunches at our home, filled with Raymond, Thomas, and his new girlfriend Sarah, their boys Owen and David, Ben and his wife, and various friends, all people who chose to be there. One Sunday, Thomas raised his coffee cup. To the Simon family for showing me what real family looks like. To chosen family, I corrected. Melissa grinned. To getting rid of toxic people. Sometimes the family you choose is infinitely better than the family you were born into, and sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.